Hello and welcome, all listeners, to Xavier Newswire Live, the radio show that will catch you up on all of the Xavier news from Ledgewood Drive to Dana Avenue and beyond. And we are bringing the show to you live on XUFM. Live being a little bit of a subjective term, we apologize, first off, for our tardiness. We were experiencing some technical issues, but we have everything sorted out, so let us get right into things. I am David Ludwig, and in this episode of Newswire Live, you will hear the Newswire Multimedia crew bringing you the rundown on the recent Zoom bombing incident on campus and subsequent security changes on Zoom, a feature of the local bar scene, and some hot takes raked fresh off the coals by Associate Multimedia Editor Will Pembroke. That is enough from me now, so let's get right into things. With our first article, which is written by Joseph Cotton and will be read by myself. Not even racist bias incidents are the same during the era of COVID-19 safety guidelines and socially distant learning. On Tuesday, August 18th, an account using an alias entered the Zoom call of a hybrid intro to Islam theology class and proceeded to repeatedly use anti-black racial slurs. The bias advisory response team stated in an incident update that the slurs were originally directed at a student, but were turned toward the professor when he attempted to engage the perpetrator. A similar incident took place during the next class meeting despite some of the precautions taken. The professor teaching that class, University Chair of Islamic Studies, Professor Walid El-Ansari, stated that he had not prepared to deal with the incident given its digital nature. "I was shocked. I thought we had passwords set up," said El-Ansari. "Initially, I engaged them thinking they were registered for the course. After the incident, the professor took account of the people present for the class to find that each student was accounted for. El-Ansari went on to say, "What was so frustrating about it was we don't know who did it. I really wanted to nail those guys." According to the Bias Advisory Response Team website, the matter was referred to the Dean of Students' Office and University Technology Services for further investigation. However, the investigations seem unlikely to turn up any answers as to who is responsible for the incident. According to Chief Information Officer Jeff Edwards, the university's ability to investigate the digital incident is limited by information law.
We have the technology to identify the location, but beyond that, we're blocked because their account is managed by a local internet service provider. And so until we got a warrant, we're blocked.
Concerning digital safety protocols, the university mandated last spring semester that every professor holding class via Zoom have a password on their meeting. After the bias incident that took place, the university now requires students to be logged in on Zoom through their Xavier student credentials. Those students who join the meeting from a personal Zoom account will be placed in a waiting room until the instructor allows them into the meeting.
There's something about security that's really important, and that's convenience versus security risk. So we try to balance, we try to make the decisions that we make it easy for people to use the security as opposed to difficult. The other option we had was to force everyone to be admitted by the faculty member, and there's just not enough time during a class period for a faculty member to admit every student individually.
According to Edwards, the new protocols make it harder, but not impossible, to carry out another Zoom bombing incident.
The meeting organizer will have to admit you to the meeting because you'll go into a waiting room if you're not signed in on this Zoom app.
Despite working through some security issues, Edwards expressed satisfaction with the technology solution the university is using.
Once the need for social distancing in the classroom was decided, we began looking for a technology solution that would allow students to be able to attend classes remotely and locally at the same time. We looked at one solution that was more of a conferencing solution, didn't work very well. We decided to reach out to some other companies. We took the time to engage faculty in the selection process. We ended up with a technology called Radiant for a couple reasons. Their sound quality was amazing. It allows the students speaking in the back of the classroom, classroom to be heard by remote students. We felt the sound quality was critical for remote students to stay engaged with the instructor in the classroom. Otherwise, they might just check out. And so we knew that that would be a really important component to it. So that's why they kind of won the day from a sound quality perspective. The second reason was Radiant Technology came up with something fairly innovative I don't think other companies have done. And they put a 43-inch monitor in front of the faculty member with the intent purpose for the faculty member to remember that those students are there remotely. I don't know if you've been in a conference call before. Everybody in the room's talking and everybody forgets about there's somebody on the conference call with you. So this was an opportunity for us to give that feedback to the faculty member real time and open. They can see the chat that's open in really big font so they can read it. And we felt like it promoted our value of cura personalis, where the faculty would be more inclined to be able to pay attention to the students in the classroom and remotely at the same time.
The process of implementing the technology took less than 6 weeks. The contract with Radiant was signed on June 30th, and the technology was installed by August 12th. There are currently 98 classrooms where the hybrid technology is implemented. Lisa Odom, Associate Professor of English and BART Co-Chair, expressed a more concerned outlook about the prospects of other digital bias incidents taking place. As people spend more time physically distanced from one another, they're interacting more online, Odom stated. I fear that we may continue to see a rise in the incidence of technology-related bias in the upcoming months. But, as of now, professors and students alike cannot do anything except hope that their class is not disrupted by such an incident. It's so discouraging to have that kind of drama. It breaks the flow of your class and it's just really upsetting, El Ansari said. I'm happy that technology services could get a solution into place so quickly. Now to have a discussion about that piece you just read, we actually have the author of that article, our campus news editor, Joseph Cotton. Welcome back on the show, Joseph.
All right, it's always great to be here.
So do you mind giving us a first-hand account of what happened that day?
Yeah, so, I mean, this would have been a story regardless, but I was unfortunately in the class where this took place. I was zooming into the class. It was right before class started. I was kind of looking through my phone, and then next thing I hear is just obscenities coming from one account. Professor El Ansari talked about this, but it's just weird having stuff like this take place in a Zoom class, right? Because if somebody did the same thing in person, that would be, really straightforward. You find out who that person is and hopefully get them off of campus. But because it happened in a digital format, it feels like you're helpless. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And how was your interview with Professor El Ansari?
He seems to be pretty satisfied with the technology solutions that are in place now. The class has gone on normally. It's very weird to have to know what incited the incident.
Yeah,
feels like there's a lot of stuff at play.
I completely understand. It's a new world for all of us, and we're kind of figuring out how to adjust to things. Now, those technology solutions, is that just the signing in with Xavier credentials, or are there also other factors at play there? Are there other safeguards?
Right. Yeah, so you have to sign in through, you sign on to Zoom through your Xavier credentials, and then once you do that, you can sort of just log into whatever room. And the rationale behind that is if it's a Xavier account that logs into a Zoom meeting, then even if something like a bias incident takes place, you at least know who it is.
Right. The email, the last name, first initial is right there.
Yeah, it's hard to, hide that at xavier.edu
right.
Signature there. So that's sort of the rationale behind that. And if you're logging in from a guest account, you have to be manually put in by the professor. So I imagine that would go something like prove that you're in the class, type your name, maybe like a banner ID or something along those lines if it really came to it.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes, it's certainly a difficult situation to deal with because I think one of the things about having class online, and it does, as you said earlier, provide that anonymity where, you don't have to use your real name. You don't have to have your camera on. You can kind of hide behind that blank screen. And it's unfortunate, but it is a circumstance of the times and the processes we are going through to try and continue the education here at Xavier. One final thing before we go is, do you think that another incident of this nature with the safeguards in place, do you think another incident of this nature might happen again?
I think it's rather unlikely. And the reason I say that is because of the features that have been put into place. It sort of, again, it takes away that anonymity from potential perpetrators. I think if it did happen again, there is ways to figure out who's responsible for it. They might be a little expensive and require a little bit of legal action. But I think if it becomes like a problem, then it's something that the university can deal with. So I'll leave it on that.
Right. We do have examples in the past of the university taking these bias incidents very seriously, and I think that I personally speaking, I think that's a very, very good thing. Thank you for coming on the show again, Joseph, and for sharing with us all this information and your thoughts. That will end this segment right here. So we are going to move on to our feature on the print.
Welcome back. We are going to have an interview now with first-year writer Mariette Waterhouse on her article about a number of the bars around campus and how they're being affected by COVID. How you doing, Mariette?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So just to start, could you just elaborate and go into a little bit of detail as to how bar owners are being affected by the pandemic?
Oh, yeah, of course. The bar owners around the Xavier campus, they rely a lot on student visitors. So a big part of their business was shut down when the students had to leave last March. So now they have all these regulations that they have to put in place where people can't be 6 feet close to each other. So they have to be 6 feet apart. And it's difficult to do that in a small bar setting. They have to limit the space that they can provide by their bars, and they have to limit the people they can let in, which is not great for a bar because you want to get the most amount of people that you can in your bar at one time.
Right. So going off of that with like the rules, are there time of day restrictions that apply to that as well, just not just spacing out?
Yeah, of course. They have to call last call at like slightly before 10. And normally like the Lateral and Dana's, they stay open till around like 2 a.m. So they're calling their last call like 3 or 4 hours before they actually close, and it's like killing them.
Right, and usually that's their big time of business
Yeah.
that late at night, so it's a big loss. From a student's perspective, how have the bar owners that you talked to, how have they said that students are approaching these new rules? Are they being followed? Is it hard to get students to do things like wear a mask?
I think one of the bar owners said, and I think he put it really well, was that like when you tell somebody something to do, they're going to want to break that rule. And especially with the college students, they're telling them you can't drink at this time. They're like, well, I'm still going to do it anyways. So I think it's difficult for students to follow the rules, but I know that the Stone Lanes owner said that a lot of the students were being very respectful of what they were asking, and they were following the rules instead of just being like, yeah, okay, and then not doing them. But I know that the Lateral, they're having a more difficult time. They had to expand their seating and really push it on the students and say, hey, you guys have to do this.
All right. From a more futuristic perspective, and the next 6 months of bar ownership in Norwood, did the bar owners say anything specifically about them thinking that the rules are going to loosen up at all, or did they not see any changes coming?
I would say like the only one who gave a really good point about that would be Stone Lanes again, because he was saying, it's up to the students to decide what happens in the future. If they don't follow the rules, we could see a spike, and then, and especially on campus as well, if students don't follow the rules that we have here, they'd have to close down, because the school would close down, and then they have to close down because a large portion of their patrons are from here.
Right, and going off of that, my final question would be, and you also mentioned that they had closed down in March, and I know that's more of a seasonal industry around here with school. Did they at all mention to you how long they think they can sustain business? I know in your article you said that certain places are down almost 40% across the board. How long did they say that they think that they can sustain this level of input?
None of them said specifically how long they would be able to sustain it, but I do know that the Lateral is actually up like a significant amount from what they were last season at this time. But I know that Stone Lanes, they haven't seen a huge influx of patrons, but I'm hoping that they will, because it's bowling, it's fun. But also, having them run off of 50% capacity, it's hard for people to want to go anyways.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we'd also like to ask and just get your opinion. I mean, you've been here for, 3 weeks now?
Mm-hmm.
So as a first year going into a bar and just having that whole scene, how was getting quotes? Did you find it to be easy? Was it intimidating? How did you find that experience to be?
And no bias towards any of the places that I went. I would say I definitely liked Stone Lanes the best, because it's closer than Dana's and the Lateral. I actually don't really know how far, but for me, Stone Lanes was closer, and they're also open earlier.
Right.
And, just being someone, I have to walk by myself to get there, or I would walk in a small group. And small groups, they're great, but they're not great for walking in the city.
Right.
So I would say it wasn't super difficult to get quotes. A couple of places I had to call multiple times to get somebody on the phone, but they're busy because people finally are able to start going to the bars. So it makes sense that they wouldn't be able to answer immediately.
Especially Stone's is a bowling alley. It's not just a bar, right? So,
absolutely.
awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you on today and hoping to have you on in the future.
Yeah, of course.
And welcome back, listeners. The music you heard during that intermission was Inspiration by Rafael Krux. If you have any thoughts or feedback for the Newswire Multimedia crew, send them to Managing Multimedia Editor Hunter Ellis at ellish2@xavier.edu. Once again, that is ELLISH2@xavier.edu. You can now find Newswire live episodes on YouTube as well. Search Xavier Newswire to find our channel. Every week, we are giving you updates on the status of COVID-19 on campus. As of September 6th, there are a total of 18 active positive cases in the Xavier community. This number had reached as high as 39 cases as of Thursday, September 3rd, but in just 3 days, the number was halved. 2 cases are employees, 6 are students, which are isolated on campus, and 10 are students which are isolated off campus. Now, for our ever-favorite segment of the show, it is Hot Takes with David Ludwig and Will Pembroke. Hi, Will. How's it going?
We're back. Glad to be back.
So how many do we have for today?
We got 3 today.
We got 3.
All 3 are mine this time.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
So we're going to start off, number 1. We talked a little bit about this special place with Mariette.
Yes.
Stones Lanes is a great place to go. It's right next to campus. I don't think people realize it and recognize it all the time, but bowling is fun. Bowling's a great activity. Yeah, I really do think people need to take advantage of that. And honestly, in terms of social distancing and inside activities, I mean, each group that comes in, you're segmented to your own lane. You're not really wandering around necessarily. And it's a great activity. I wish more people would take it up. It's affordable. It's a really affordable activity. And I think, it's just general. It's so close to campus too. You don't have to get in an Uber. You don't have to spend that extra $10 to go somewhere.
Yeah, it's right past U Station.
100%. So I just think people don't think about Stones Lanes enough when they're thinking about activities. Plus, you're supporting local business, which, as we heard earlier, needs it.
No, yeah, it's first off, I would like to say it's wonderful to see that local businesses are kind of making this comeback in the COVID era. But yeah, I feel like bowling is really slept on as like an activity.
No doubt.
Because it's an all-round thing. Like, you can do it with family, you can do it with friends. It's a fun date night activity. It's just anything you want. Bowling kind of just fits that mold.
And to your point, it can be competitive. It doesn't have to be competitive. There's so many different uses for it. Like you said, I mean, like date night, especially, like, great place to go. Like, everyone's like, oh, movie theaters traditionally, like, it's kind of hard to talk. If you're going on a date to a movie theater, it's incredibly hard to talk to someone because it's during a movie. Take them to the bowling alley, and it's cheap. Yeah,
bowling, you get a fun game, you get some fun, like, competitive banter going on. It's really nice.
All right, we started off hot. We're going to go to number 2.
Ooh, yes.
Here, number 2. We're going to talk about Hailstones Hall.
Oh.
A little bit.
Oh, are we?
Great place to study. Go
really?
There. Yeah, I was actually just talking to Joseph, who we had on earlier. There's nobody in there ever. I know, all Xavier students know they do the walk when they go into altar. The first floor, they walk down. There's no rooms available, and they just keep going up and up and up, and then you just try to find rooms. Go to Hailstones.
Yeah.
It's open. There are rooms. There are chalkboards. All the utilities are accessible. Unlike in Bangor, where you are hard-pressed to find a dry erase marker to use on the boards, there's chalk and chalkboards. It's a little throwback. You know what I'm saying?
The rooms in Hailstones are huge.
Enormous.
They are much larger than any rooms in Altar. Of course, now that we say that, all of our listeners who are students on Xavier campus are going to like rush to Hailstones.
But now. You know what? You know what the benefit of that is? If we get some foot traffic out of Altar,
then
and
Altar's
into Hailstones,
free. Yeah.
Right? It's just we're spreading it out a little bit.
Yeah, we're spreading the study love.
So go to Hailstones. You got to do it.
All right, I like that. Yeah, maybe I'll start going to Hailstones.
I got David. All right, number 3, and this is more of a personal touch here at the end of Hot Takes.
Okay.
I love golf, and it is a great quarantine activity. You know what?
Makes sense.
If you're looking for something to do during quarantine, learn how to play golf. Just do it. Similarly to the bowling alley, it has several uses in life. Learning how to play golf is excellent if you're going into business. If you can take someone on a golf outing in business and perform well and stand there and talk about everything you need to talk about, it's wonderful. It's great. Golf is therapeutic. You get to go out in nature. You get to be outside. You can put your phone away, which is, I know everybody's looking for an excuse to do that. There's that. You can go out. If you are of age, you can have drinks. You can have a good time with someone. Another great place to go if you are taking someone on a date, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, if you go out at 3 o'clock and you're out in nature, you're finishing up right around 6, 7 o'clock, you get that beautiful sunset. There's plenty of really nice places around here to go and play. And especially in Cincinnati, it
Yeah.
is affordable, very
Really?
cheap, very
Really?
cheap, especially as far as golf goes.
Yeah, I know a lot of people's stigma against golf is like the affordability of it,
Right.
because a lot of places are a little more on the expensive side.
Oh, and it in terms of how sports are, it's one of the most expensive sports.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm saying, if you can find someone's clubs to borrow, you just go somewhere. There are places around here, $10, $15.
Really?
It's not expensive. I mean, it's really, by
Wow.
comparison, it's not that much more expensive than other activities. So
Wow.
yeah, I just had to let the people know about that. But that's it for today.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, I think as much as we've like to your point about business, especially, like as much as that's kind of like become a stereotype of like businessmen playing golf, like, you know, it is a thing that happens, and I think it is a great way, a more interesting way to conduct things like meetings and whatnot.
And business is a broad term. You don't
Yes,
just need to be a
true.
business major to go play golf with someone that you're a potential client. That could span out to really any field. Taking someone out, giving them an experience, showing them that you care. I mean, it's a big deal.
All right, well, I think that will bring us to a close for our hot takes segment. As always, Will, it is absolutely just such a pleasure to hear your thoughts and just kind of banter about them.
Absolutely. Wouldn't want to spend my Monday any other way.
All right. Well, that will lead us out of hot takes and into our home stretch. Well, listeners, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today in this episode of Newswire Live. Thank you so much for tuning into the show today, and another apology for our tardiness. If you have any thoughts or feedback for the Newswire Multimedia crew, please send them to Managing Multimedia Editor Hunter Ellis at ellish2@xavier.edu. Once again, that is ELLISH2@xavier.edu. We would like to give a special thanks to Carolyn Youngquist, a senior music education major at Xavier, who produced the music you heard in today's show. At this time, we'd also like to give a shout out to our staff and guests who helped make this episode possible. Thank you to Managing Multimedia Editor Hunter Ellis, Associate Multimedia Editor Will Pembroke, Newswire Editor-in-Chief Heather Gast, Newswire Managing Editor Alex Budzinski, and our producers Kira Wilkins, Elena Dunbar, Charlie Gestalder, and junior producer Will Rippey. Without you all, this show would not be possible, and thank you very, very much. Special thanks also to our guests for today, Joseph Cotton and Mariette Waterhouse, for their excellent thoughts and all the things that they have provided to make this episode wonderful. If you missed this episode or any others, well, you're listening now, so you didn't miss it. But you can find Newswire live episodes on YouTube. Just search Xavier Newswire to find our channel. And be sure not to miss our next episode, which is the same time, Monday at 7 p.m. Until next week, this is David Ludwig wishing you a marvelous Monday evening and signing off.